Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is MON-SEE if you're new here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking to you about all the books that I am committing to reading in 2025. Now, if you've been on my channel for some time, you probably know that I don't do monthly TBRs. It's a personal preference, but for me, they just feel a little bit too claustrophobic. I like to have the freedom to read whatever I'm in the mood for when I'm in the mood for it. What I did last year instead was I made genre TBR videos. I talked about the books within a particular genre that were top priority for me, but without any time constraints attached to them. And I really liked that. I liked that when I was in the mood for a book within a particular genre, I had a list to refer to that I could pick from. So yeah, I don't typically like reading on a deadline, but a year time span feels a lot more doable to me than a month. I'm trying it out this year. We'll see how it goes. My plan is to have 20 books on this list. Last year I read 70 books, so 20 I think will be the perfect amount to give me some guidance without limiting me too much. And you know, the thought is that I'm putting books on this list that I genuinely want to read, so theoretically, this should not be a hardship. This video is going to be broken up into 3 parts. For the first part of the video, I am going to briefly share a few of my goals with you for the year. That way you understand why I'm picking certain books, because they're going to be geared towards those goals, ideally. I feel like that's the smart thing to do. The second part of this video is going to be me reviewing the 6 genre TBRs that I had made last year, seeing how many books I actually read from those lists, and then from the remaining books, I'm going to pick 1 to 2 to add to my 2025 TBR. Just because I'm making this priority list doesn't mean that I want to completely neglect the past TBRs that I made, so I think, again, it would be a smart thing for me to sort of integrate the two. And then for the third part of the video, I'm just going to be filling in the remaining slots all the way up to 20 with anticipated releases, books from series that I have yet to finish, and books from genres that I never made TBR videos on. So let's get into the goals. My first goal is that I want to read longer books / books that I find intimidating. The two are kind of interchangeable for me. I found that lengthier books scare me off, and I don't know when that happened. If I'm being honest, there's probably a subconscious effort on my part to read a higher quantity of books, and that is often at the expense of reading long books. And I would really like to break free from that mindset, so cheers for longer books in 2025. And when I say long books, I don't mean 500, 600 pages. I mean thick books, 700, 800 pages or more. The second reading goal that I have this year is to read as much nonfiction in 2025 that I read in 2024. 2024 was my best nonfiction reading year by far. I've always been an avid memoir reader, but I read more of your standard information, fact-based nonfiction last year than I ever have. And I just want to do the same this year. I don't have to read more than I did last year. The same amount would be fantastic. And the third goal that I have is to read more historical fiction. I have always thought of historical fiction as being my favorite genre, but when I reviewed all the books that I read in 2024, I think I only read maybe 3 or 4 historical fiction books. So I'd like to make a little bit more of a return to what I consider to be my favorite genre and see if that is really true. I never made a historical fiction TBR video, so all of the historical fiction books that I want to include this year are going to show up in the third part of this video. So really, those are the 3 goals that I have. Now we can review my 6 genre TBRs from 2024 and see how much progress I made towards completing each of those. Okay, so the first TBR that I had made was my nonfiction TBR. I had 7 books on that list, and so far I have read 4 of them. Not bad if you ask me. Of the remaining 3, we have Open Veins of Latin America, Why We Sleep, and So You've Been Publicly Shamed. I think that Why We Sleep would be the easiest choice for me to add because I know the most about that topic. So You've Been Publicly Shamed, I think, is the one that intrigues me the most, and Open Veins of Latin America is the one that would challenge me the most. Not that that's a bad thing. I actually really like the experience of being pushed with my nonfiction, and I own Open Veins of Latin America. So I think that that's the one that I'm gonna go with because I don't really, at this stage of my life, just collect books. I own them to read them, so I feel like I should pick that one since I already have it. I'm gonna go ahead and add Why We Sleep as well because I've been talking about reading this one forever, and if I don't do it this year, I probably never will, so let's do that one also. So those are gonna be the first 2 books on my TBR. The second TBR video that I did was romance. I had 10 books on that list, and I have read 8 of them. I went hard in the paint with my romance last year. So we have 2 to choose from, One Last Stop and Funny You Should Ask. And for the same reason that I chose Open Veins, I'm gonna choose Funny You Should Ask because I own it. The next category we have is memoirs. I had 10 books on my memoir TBR and I only read 1. That honestly is pretty surprising to me because I usually read a memoir a month, but I think I kind of lost steam with them towards the end of the year. So I really need to pick that back up. I think I'm gonna pick 2 from this list. I actually bought the book Cockroaches by Scholastique Mukasonga. It's about the Rwandan genocide and I couldn't find it anywhere for free. It wasn't available to me at the library. I didn't see it on Libby. So I went ahead and bought a book for full price. That's how much I want to read it. So let's add that to my 2025 TBR. And then I think from the remaining 8 books, I really want to read all of them, but I have to just pick one, I think. And I'm gonna pick In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park. It's about her escape from North Korea. I've been wanting to read this for a long time. So let's do that one. Okay, and now we have my science fiction TBR. I had 9 books on this list, and so far I have read 3 of those. I know for sure that I'm gonna add Seven Eves from Neil Stephenson for 2 different reasons. One, it's an 870-page book, I'm pretty sure, so that will fit perfectly with my goal of reading longer books. I also asked my best friend if there was any book that she wanted me to read this year, and this was the book that she picked. Of all the books, this is the one. So I've already committed to her, and now I'm committing to you all that I will be reading Seven Eves this year. I'm gonna pick one more science fiction book, and I think it's gonna have to be The Ministry of Time. This is such a controversial one. Everyone has a strong opinion on this book. You either love it or you hate it, and I really want to know where I fall on the spectrum. Moving on to my thriller TBR. I had 10 books on this list and I read 7. Again, I went ham with my thrillers this fall. So of the 3 that we have left, I could just add them all, but I'm not going to because I want to chill with the thrillers. So let's do The Quiet Tenant because I haven't heard that much about it, but the opinions that I have heard have been really positive. So let's do that one. Moving on to my final genre TBR, we have fantasy. I only made this TBR video last month, so I really haven't had very much time to pick any of these up. The only one that I've read is Blood Over Brighthaven. And I have already started The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer, so I'm gonna take that out of the running. Let's choose 2 books from this list. I know a lot of other people are reading Ember in the Ashes for the very first time right now, so I'm definitely gonna go with that one. And then I think I'm gonna have to choose The Will of the Many. That's more of a promise to my partner. This is also one that showed up on so many people's top 10 books of 2024. So I really, really, really want to get to this. So now that we've gone through all my genre TBRs, I have 10 books added to my 2025 list, which leaves me with 10 more slots to fill. Let's first talk classics because there are 3 classics that I'm really interested in reading potentially this year: The Count of Monte Cristo, Pride and Prejudice, and East of Eden. It's so hard to choose which one of those three I want to add, but I know realistically I can only add one of them. The Count of Monte Cristo is the longest of these three, but I also think that it would be the one that's the most compulsively readable. I'm also sure that I would really like Pride and Prejudice. I don't even know the Pride and Prejudice story. Isn't that crazy? I haven't seen the movie, nothing. I don't know anything about Pride and Prejudice, so I feel like that's a little bit of a crime. And East of Eden, I truly have no idea whether I would like it or not. I just have heard so many people rave about this book, and I'd like to read Steinbeck and see what all the fuss is about. What to do. I think I'm gonna go with The Count of Monte Cristo. I actually read the abridged version of it in high school and remember loving it, so I think that I'm gonna really like it, and I think that's the one. Now let's talk historical fiction. I want to have at least 3 historical fiction books on this list, and ideally I will read more than that this year, because if you remember from earlier on in this video, it is one of my goals. The first book that I'm gonna add is Brotherless Night by V.V. Ganeshananthan. This is a book that I haven't really heard anyone talk about on YouTube, but I saw that it won the Women's Fiction Prize of 2024, and I was obsessed with the cover. It's about the Sri Lankan Civil War, of which I know nothing, and yeah, I decided that I wanted to read it. I've already requested it through the library. In fact, I already have it in my possession, so we're gonna add that. The other book that I'm gonna add is Armor of Light by Ken Follett. It is the only book in the Kingsbridge series that I haven't read yet, and it's a long book, so it's fulfilling 2 goals of mine in one. And then the third book that I'm gonna do, another really long one, is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. So many people talk about this book. I've only read one book by Stephen King. I read Pet Sematary like 3 or 4 years ago, and I thought it was okay, but like horror's not my thing really. But 11/22/63 is supposed to be like historical fiction / time traveling. I don't really know if there are any horror elements, but I don't think if there is that it's at the forefront of the story. So I think that this could be a good Stephen King novel for me. Now let's talk about literary fiction. I don't really read a ton of literary fiction, I don't think. I believe that the type of fiction that I gravitate towards would be considered genre fiction, because it's a little bit more plot-based. I'm not entirely sure. Literary fiction is one of those genres that doesn't have very clearly defined borders, but I want to read more literary fiction, or I at least want to try to read some literary fiction and see if it's my thing. So the first person that comes to mind when I think of literary fiction is Sally Rooney, and I have read a Sally Rooney book before. I read Normal People 5 years ago, but I think I went into it with the wrong expectations. Like, I thought I was getting just your average contemporary romance, and we all know that's not what Normal People is. So I didn't like it as much as a lot of people do, but again, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and now I'm gonna know before picking up Sally Rooney's books. So I'd like to read something by her. I don't know which book though. I kind of want to read Intermezzo because of all of the buzz surrounding it, but I think it would be interesting to read an older book of hers and then follow it up with Intermezzo, so I could see maybe the growth over time. So it's gonna have to either be Conversations with Friends or Beautiful World, Where Are You? I don't even know what either of those books is about. I'm pretty sure Conversations with Friends is her first book, and maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I don't want to read her debut novel. So why don't we go with Beautiful World, Where Are You? And I'm gonna let that be the only literary fiction that I put on this 2025 list, but hopefully I read some other ones as well. Okay, now I would like to discuss anticipated releases. I am not someone that has historically kept up to date with anticipated releases, but this year I have watched a lot of people's videos on the topic and I've really enjoyed it. It's gotten me particularly excited about the year to come, and I have 2 anticipated releases that I'm gonna put on my 2025 TBR. The first one is an absolute given for me. It's gonna be Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid is an auto-buy author for me. I am strongly considering pre-ordering this book. I have never done that. I rarely buy books full price. Last year, I bought 2 books full price total. The rest of the books that I brought into my home were either thrifted or little free libraried. But yeah, buying a book full price is a very uncommon occurrence for me, but I think I might do it for this one because I want to read it before I hear anyone else's opinion on it. The second anticipated release that I would like to read is Frederick Bachman's book, but I kind of forget what it's called, so let me quickly look that up. Oh my god, it's called My Friends. There is quite possibly nothing that I like reading more about than friendship, so I think I'm gonna love this one because I love Frederick Bachman. Definitely adding that one to my 2025 TBR, without a doubt. Okay, I don't know how many books we're at, so let me quickly do a little bit of a count. It looks like I have 3 spots left on my list, and I am going to reserve those final 3 spots for series that I would like to continue. The first series that I desperately need to move forward with, and I want to, I just feel like I've spent so much time away from it that I'm a little bit nervous to re-enter the world, but that one's gonna be Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. This is the 4th book in the Red Rising saga, but it's the first book in the Iron Gold trilogy, and I just need to read it. I love this series. I don't know why I'm so nervous to pick it up. I think because it's a long book, but it's really not that long. It's less than 600 pages. Like, it doesn't even count towards my goal of reading longer books. I just need to figure out how to do a refresher of the original trilogy so that I don't feel like I'm completely lost when I get into this one. But I need to read this year. I need to get back into the series and ideally get completely caught up. The second series that I really want to continue with is the Beartown trilogy by Frederick Bachman. I read Beartown maybe like 3 years ago and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I think that the ending didn't necessarily leave me wanting more, but I never felt compelled to pick up the second book, and I've started hearing a lot of praise for the second and third books in the last year, so that's another series that I really want to get back into. I might have to reread Beartown first before I read the second and third books, but whatever the second book is, that one is going to be on my 2025 TBR. The third and final series that I am committing to continuing on with in 2025 is going to be the Magnolia Parks universe. I really liked the first 2 books, surprisingly, and I loved the covers even more, so I'm definitely going to continue on with the series. The third book is another Magnolia Parks perspective, and it's called The Long Way Home, and that is going to take my 20th spot on my 2025 TBR. Those are the books that I am committing to reading this upcoming year. Let me know if you have read any of them, specifically if you really loved them, so that I feel more inclined to pick them up. Hype me up in the comments below. I would really appreciate it. If you watched this entire video, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.